What? Huh?
Yeah, don't do that to me. That ain't even funny. Let me see. Huh? Yeah, don't do that to me. Having a few technical diddlies, folks. Go figure, right? Um, having some internet issues. Apparently, I have gotten Rocall's internet, so sometimes that happens around here. But this is Friday, January 15th, 2021, and you are watching The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second. And I'm glad to see you. I took a break last week, as you guys know. Went and did some camping, which pretty much ended disastrously. Sucked. So, yeah, I kind of had to call that. Yes, this thing is finally on, or it should be. You guys might be getting some buffering. Yeah, the video is going to be crap. I'm sorry, folks. My internet is not does not seem to be wanting to work properly. But we'll push through this. Anyhow, I ended up coming home early that night because one of the things you can do to keep yourself warm during cold weather camping, fill a water bottle with water, obviously, and boil it. Put that hot water in your tent, sleeping bag, under your blankets, whatnot. I had some wool blankets with me. Well, it's a good idea if you have a steel container to let it sit and cool just a little bit so that the container shrinks. I failed to do that. Put it on when it was still piping, put the cap on when it was still piping hot. Even held it upside down, made sure it wasn't leaking, all of that good stuff. Wrapped it up, chucked it in my bed, started getting ready for bed. By the time I got in there, yeah, there was a puddle. Everything was soaking wet because the bottle cooled a bit and shrank enough to leak the water everywhere. I'm not sleeping out in 20-degree weather with wet bedding. Not if I have a choice. I mean, yeah, if I really had to, if I was forced to, I could have done several different things to survive through the night. But, if I'm camping for fun, yeah, cold and wet ain't fun. So, yeah, I cut that one short. So, I hope you guys all had a better weekend last weekend. Other than that, it was great. But, yeah, that just kind of sucked. Like to say hello to my esteemed panel here. We got the Tactical Pickle himself, Calaveras 32 Special. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right, Budget. I appreciate the invite, like always. And especially that, considering we didn't have the show last week, so we've got two weeks of shenanigans to go through. It should be an interesting show.
Some of it's some exhausting stuff. Yeah. But on that note, I'd like to welcome the irascible yet lovable Squibload. How you doing, sir?
Doing all right tonight. Thanks for the invite.
Always welcome to be here. Speaking of always welcome to be here, looks like we got Rocall 219 popping in. How are you doing, sir?
Thanks for having me, man. It's great to be back on the show.
I mean, hey, your internet is here, so you might as well be here too, right?
For the time being.
This my internet is apparently, speaking of always welcome to be, taking a crap. My video is buffering badly. Yes, folks, I know my video is buffering badly. I'm sorry. Hopefully the audio is coming through well, though. Hopefully. We have... Oh, who popped in? Who is the fellow gun tuber that popped in here? Hello, fellow gun tuber. Gosh. If I don't choke myself to death, right? Fellow gun tuber, are you there? Nope, lost the connection. Oops. Well, we will talk with you when you get here. Speaking of talk, let me talk to the folks out there in the chat. Hello to everyone out there. We had Mystic Gun showing up first. Says she's my #1 fan. Which is frightening if you've ever seen Misery. So, yeah, there's that. Snob, help. Ozzy Osbourne's barking at the moon out there. Midnight Range TM is in the house. Lockjaw is there. Yes, it is on. Seven Wonders there. Let's see. Warsaw Patriot is expressing his vast amounts of love for the NRA. Let's see. Coffee, Guns, and Ammo Astronomy is there. The Hub 1964. Earth is in the house. Bo Weevil is weaveling through things. So yes, let's say hello. We only got 17 people in. I'm sure some people came in and saw the horrific video and decided, yeah, screw this. Well, that's cool. Off the X is in there. SS Pawn is here. Clover Tech is in the house. Clover, you should have a link. Hop on if you would like to be part of the dumpster fire tonight. Clover says NRA is Texas bound apparently. Looking forward to what that might do for youth shooting sports in the state. Having access a lot closer will be nice. Well, we're going to talk about that. So, as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and talk about that. As soon as I can get everything up and running the way it needs to. Doggone it. Come on, let me move stuff around. There we go. Move this. Catherine intends to restructure as a nonprofit based in Texas and has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protections. The move will enable long-term sustainable growth and ensure the NRA's continued success. This strategic plan represents a pathway to opportunity, growth, and progress, NRA CEO Wayne LaPierre said in a statement. Obviously, an important part of this plan is dumping New York. The NRA is pursuing reincorporating in a state that values the contributions of the NRA, celebrates our law-abiding members, and will join us as a partner in upholding constitutional freedom. LaPierre dubbed the decision Friday a transformational moment in the history of the NRA. The move comes after the NRA was sued by New York Attorney General Letitia James last August in a bid to dissolve the group. James accused the NRA of an array of illegal conduct, according to a press release at the time describing the suit, including the diversion of millions of dollars away from the charitable mission of the organization for personal use by senior leadership, awarding contracts to the financial gain of close associates and family, and appearing to dole out lucrative no-show contracts to former employees in order to buy their silence and continued loyalty. The NRA has filed a counterclaim calling the initial suit politically motivated. James on Friday responded to the bankruptcy news in a statement saying the NRA's claimed financial status has finally met its moral status. Bankrupt. Gotta admit, that's a pretty good line. While we review this filing, we will not allow the NRA to use this or any other tactic to evade accountability and my office's oversight, James added. Nonprofit gun violence protection organizations also reacted to the news on Friday. Let's be clear about what's happening here. The NRA, which is losing power and hemorrhaging money, is now filing for bankruptcy in an attempt to escape legal culpability for years of financial mismanagement and illegal self-dealing, John Feinblatt, the president of Everytown for Gun Safety, said in a statement. Boy, that whole name of that organization is a lie. Everytown for Gun Safety. First off, it ain't every town, and second, they got shit to do with gun safety. This desperate maneuver is a de facto admission of guilt. Shannon Watts, the founder of Moms Demand Action, you mean the figurehead, because Bloomberg founded that, added, the NRA can try to run from its years of deception, decadence, and self-dealing, but it can't hide. The NRA has become a front group for gun manufacturers and a personal piggy bank for its leadership, all while endangering millions of lives, Watts said. They've been out of touch with the American people for decades, and now they're out of money, too. Well, that's, of course, not all of the story. There are some the NRA has to say. This is from the NRA's website, a letter from Wayne LaPierre. Dear NRA members and supporters, today, the NRA announced a restructuring plan that positions us for the long term and ensures our continued success as the nation's leading advocate for constitutional freedom, free from the toxic political environment of New York. The plan can be summed up quite simply. We are dumping New York, in all caps, and we are pursuing plans to reincorporate the NRA in Texas. To facilitate the strategic plan and restructuring, the NRA and one of its subsidiaries have filed voluntary Chapter 11 petitions in the United States Bankruptcy Court for the Northern District of Texas, Dallas Division. As you may know, Chapter 11 proceedings are often utilized by businesses, nonprofits, and organizations of all kinds to streamline legal and financial affairs. Under the plan, the NRA will continue what we've always done, confronting anti-gun, anti-self-defense, and anti-hunting activities and promoting constitutional advocacy that helps law-abiding Americans. Our work will continue as it always has. No major changes are expected to the NRA's operations or workforce. Importantly, our plans do not impact your membership at any level. NRA supporters will continue to enjoy all their full member benefits, from new members to life members to benefactor members. We will continue to publish and deliver your magazines. We will continue to train Americans and teach them firearm safety. We will continue to teach hunter safety. But most importantly, we will continue to fight for your freedom and the freedom of all Americans, as we have for all these years. In fact, we are expanding our national platform. The plan aims to streamline costs and expenses, proceed with pending litigation in a coordinated and structured manner, and realize many financial and strategic advantages. You know that our opponents will try to seize upon this news and distort the truth. Don't believe what you read from our enemies. The NRA is not bankrupt or going out of business. The NRA is not insolvent. We are as financially strong as we have been in years. But they know today's announcement makes us bigger, stronger, and more prepared for the fight for freedom. We are leaving the state of an attorney general who, just a few months ago, vowed to put us out of business through an abuse of legal and regulatory power. In fact, the gross overreach of the New York Attorney General and New York Governor has been resoundingly criticized by powerful national groups like the ACLU and a host of prominent legal scholars. Subject to court approval, the NRA is pursuing plans to reincorporate in the state of Texas. The Lone Star State is home to more than 400,000 NRA members and the site of our 2021 annual meeting being held in Houston. Texas values the contributions of the NRA, celebrates our law-abiding members, and joins us as a partner in upholding constitutional freedom. Under this plan, we seek protection from New York officials who illegally abused and weaponized the powers they wield against the NRA and its members. You can be assured the association will continue the fight to protect your interests in New York and all forums where the NRA is unlawfully singled out for its Second Amendment advocacy. This plan represents a pathway to opportunity, growth, and progress. This is the most transformational moment in the history of the NRA, and it involves all of you. The NRA will continue to promote its Second Amendment advocacy, sponsor firearms training, and work with its network of instructors and volunteers in furtherance of its mission. This plan actually streamlines all the NRA's activities and improves our operational processes. I know we have welcomed many of you to our headquarters in Fairfax, Virginia. We have no immediate plans to relocate, but we are forming a special committee to explore our strategic options in this regard. We want to determine if there are advantages to relocating our HQ operations to another state. I have asked our leadership team to explore all options that benefit the NRA and its members. What's most important is leading the fight for Second Amendment freedom and serving our members. We will do that from anywhere that works best for you and for our cause. All membership dues and financial donations will be fully dedicated to supporting our operations and public advocacy. This plan actually improves our business. It protects us from costly, distracting, and unprincipled attacks from anti-2A politicians aimed at attacking the NRA because we are a potent political force. We know that the gun ban lobby will never stop, fueled by a hatred of your freedoms and by wealthy benefactors. Our plan is the best way to confront them. We are now prepared for a better future. In fact, to me, it feels like the dawn of a new day. We are revitalized, well-positioned, and steadfast in our commitment to fight for you. To learn more, please visit www.nra.org/forward. Thank you for your unwavering spirit and being part of the NRA's future. Both hold incredible promise for our country and the freedoms in which it believes. Wayne LaPierre. Now, before I open the floor for discussion, there is one more piece that I'd like to read. It's kind of opinion piece from this blog, onlygunsandmoney.com. It's a piece about the NRA's bankruptcy petition from today by John Richardson. This says, there are two major things of note in the National Rifle Association's Chapter 11 bankruptcy petition. First, there is a resolution passed at the January 7, 2021 Board of Directors meeting in Dallas giving Wayne LaPierre the authority to reorganize or restructure the affairs of the association, which it shows you, it gives you the language of the resolution. The second item of note contained in the bankruptcy petition is the list of unsecured creditors. At the top of that list is Ackerman McQueen with a disputed claim of $1,273,800.12. Can't forget the 12 cents. Also disputed are claims from Tony Macris, Under Wild Skies, and the ACMAC subsidiary Mercury Group. The rest of the unsecured creditors are an assortment ranging from Google to UPS. Most seem to be related to fundraising or advertising. What is most interesting in that list is what is not there. There is no mention of any legal bills due to William Brewer III's firm Brewer Attorneys and Counselors. This could mean that he is a secured creditor or that any monies due him have already been paid. It seems obvious that this move has been in the works for many months. Seegert LLC was established in November 2020 according to the filing with the Texas Secretary of State's office. Moreover, the litigation committee was set up in September and probably had been discussed many months in advance of that. Then it has some documents for Seegert LLC tax filings and whatnot. According to the letter from Wayne LaPierre, this move will not impact members as the NRA is simply leaving a toxic state for one that is welcoming. And it goes to quote the letter that I just read to you guys. While I think it is good that the NRA ditches New York, I really wish that they'd listened to Professor Joe Olson when, as a board member and expert in corporate law, he urged them to do it in 1991. Think of all the monies that would have been saved in litigation expenses that could have been used to promote the Second Amendment. I also wish, as part of the deed and what I believe is skullduggery and ill dealings, but, you know, we can't have everything we want, right? Clover, how you doing?
Better if I can find the mute in the chamber. I'm not used to the chamber, man. I'm well. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. I judging by what your wife is posting on social media, the stuff that you're eating, I'm wondering how pregnant you are.
I don't want to talk about that. Y'all just hush, man. That was one of my grandmother's favorite snacks, and I may be one of the very, very few other people on the planet that enjoys that. But yeah, there's just something about it, man. There's that salty, there's that heat, there's that sweet. There's just, it's interesting,
hey,
man. It's got that crunch. It's it's good, man.
What's important is that you like it, and to hell with anybody else, right?
Yeah, exactly. But anyway,
okay,
big topic, big news.
On this topic,
right?
you know, we are all adults here.
Are we? But are we?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
speak for yourself, dude.
All right, we're supposed to be adults here. Let's remember the strictures I try to keep in place. Try. So, please, let's discuss. What do you guys think about this? Is this much ado about nothing? Is it just, oh my God, the NRA's gone, or is it just, business as usual? Companies and organizations do this all the time.
Can I go?
Sure.
So, first of all, it depends on how you run your YouTube channel and how much money you're trying to make and how many OLights you're trying to sell, I suppose. I guess that's first and foremost. Second
well,
of
you
all,
guys will be glad to know the OLight won't talk to me, so that's not an issue here.
You're in good company, man, and you're not missing a darn thing. So, second, it's going to depend on either how ignorant you are or how bullheadedly blind you are at ignoring facts and truth. And you really need to check yourself, and I think you really need to check your ego, check your bullheadedness, check all of that mess at the door. And approach this from a much more pragmatic standpoint. First of all, Wild Earth, they haven't moved from where they were at decades ago is
Thank
honestly is beyond me, right?
Thank you.
It's the
most
same
people,
thing with the firearms manufacturers in Massachusetts and
Right.
New York and California. It's like, why are you still there? So
Yeah.
it's the same
Yeah.
mentality.
Exactly. So that's we've asked that for years, hadn't got a good answer. But when you're talking about businesses, when you're talking about corporations, when you're talking about things that require a restructure, um, is a mechanism by which that they're going under. It doesn't mean that they've gone out of business. It doesn't mean that they've ceased to exist. You name a company out there, and odds are they've probably filed for bankruptcy before. It happens. Part of them doing this allows them more flexibility and freedom in moving into Texas. And then one of the perks when they move into Texas, hashtag Wayne must go. I will agree and align with pretty much everybody on that. I think that his time has come. I think he needs to be replaced, if nothing else, purely for an optics standpoint, if absolutely no other reason. It's time for him to go. He's been there long enough, and he's made plenty enough money off the backs of those hardened 2A supporters and everything else. He'll get a golden parachute and everything else. It's not like he's going to get kicked out on the street, although some might say, and I probably wouldn't argue, that he should be flogged and thrown out naked in the streets. But I think moving into Texas is going to be part of a good thing too. We have a pretty no-nonsense attorney general, and if you look at the stuff that went on with Cheaper Than Dirt, if you look at some of the things with challenging the stuff with the election, if you look at a lot of other things with the regulations and other things that was coming down and how they were fought and how businesses were local municipalities, I should say, were told they couldn't do this and that. All our AG, man, great dude. I consider him pretty much a patriot. He does very few things that concern me, and I think that's on the radar with him moving in. I think that there will be a little bit of a check there. It's not going to be a free reign. So if you're thinking that they're going to go back to status quo, there's going to be malfeasance, there's going to be all kinds of things going on. The slightest little hint of stuff like that, I'm pretty convinced that our AG is gonna dive in and look into it. Now, do they squirrel and run to Arizona? Do they squirrel and run and do this again to some other state? With Wayne in power, who freaking knows, right? But to speak to the people out there that are let it burn, that there's nothing good, we're talking about a 150-year organization. Yes, they've got their fingers in a lot of nasty anti-gun legislation. They've got a lot of slip-ups from the people higher up inside the organization. But number one, you've got to realize that
Clover,
we're talking about,
Can I interrupt for just 1 second?
Yeah, because
Hey, everybody out there, if you want to talk actually about guns and stuff, head on over to the Daily Gun Show and watch that, man. That starts in like 2 or 3 minutes. Go check it out. G-Webs does a great job over there. And, go talk actual guns and stuff if that's what you want to do. But if you want to talk Second Amendment politics, news, and current events, stick around because we got a lot more of this coming. Please continue, Clover.
What I was going to say, the ILA is really the problematic arm. When people have a problem with the NRA, you're ignoring 80% of the organization, and you're focusing on the 20%, which is a totally separate, fairly new thing when you're talking about a 150-year-old organization, and the ILA only being a few decades old. Sit back and think about that for a second. You're talking about the total demonization of a huge organization with a lot of moving parts that has a ton of social implications when it comes to the perception of firearms and other things in this country, with their education programs and training and competitions and range development programs, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So for those people that just point blank come out and say, I take real big issue, and there's people in the chat tonight that's done that. Anytime you utter the word NRA, it happens, and it chaps my hide. And it chaps my hide because you're ignoring the things that matter. You're ignoring things, and you're being untruthful. You're dealing in a half truth. Let me put it to you that way. You're dealing in a half truth, because what happens when we got a new firearm owner that comes on board? We got somebody that is on the verge of Pro 2A, and then the NRA, they think they're doing good, and they're, all of this and that, and then you come at them with the NRA is corrupt, they're horrible, they've never done anything good, blah, 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 blah. Well, you make them people go, whoa, wait a minute. I just came into this thing. I'm giving this organization money. They seem like the right thing to do, and then everybody is telling me that this organization is totally corrupt and does nothing good. So you know what? I'm out. I don't want to be involved in some 2A movement that's all corrupt. I'm out.
Especially when the general public uses the NRA as shorthand for Second Amendment activists and gun owners.
Right. It's almost a synonym, right?
Yep.
So we have a duty to be educated about the NRA and explain that. If you don't want to give them your money, fine. If you don't want to give them your money because they screwed up on the bump stock thing, that they screwed up in 1984 with the Hughes Amendment, go on down the list with multiple other things over the years, yes, that is present, that they've done, right? Yeah, that's fine. But then at the same breath, recognize the things that you're absolutely ignoring, that for 150 years they've been doing it right. And I challenge you to question yourself. If we hadn't had that 150 years, if we didn't have those range programs, those everything else in the last decade, in the last 5 years, in the last 2 years, how would the world and the perception, as bad as it is with the stigma around firearm ownership and everything else, how much worse would it be? I challenge you to think about that. And I'll shut up.
Where would we be now? Where would we be now? Please,
Clover,
go ahead.
I like the way that you kind of put it with regard to Wayne, like standard operating procedure for a company. How many times has a big corporation filed bankruptcy or been sued or had a product recalled or had something defective about a product they make? And what do to save their stock prices? They fire the CEO, or they fire a whole bunch of people on the board of directors or whatnot. Now, sure, they get their golden parachute and all that. That's all hush hush. But being in the auto industry, I see this all the time. I say, you don't know about some of the backdoor stuff. They're like, we're going to make it good for you, but you've got to go, just hang your head low and walk out the door. It's more dog and pony, but it's to save the stocks. It really is. It's so the company stock prices don't drop anymore because the stocks are more important than the factories and all the other stuff. Well, this is no different. The NRA runs more like a company than a nonprofit. All right, let's all be truthful about it. It runs like a company. Wayne is the CEO, and if the board of directors want to make him the sacrificial lamb to save the stock prices being the Second Amendment people's community's faith in the NRA, to get those people who left to come back, or to get those people who are on the fence not to leave, or whatever it is, right? The membership is the stock price of the company, right? Then that's what the board of directors should do. But
they
the way LaPierre has done things, they've taken power away from the board of directors in this company, or he has taken power away from the board of directors, and he's done so much division and other, things you typically couldn't get away with in a real company. But I like the way that you explained it like that, because that is standard operating procedure all across the board in business.
Well, thank you, Squib. I can't believe Squib about halfway agrees with me, but sometimes he does. Sometimes lightning strikes and miracles happen, right?
Instead of saying, you were joking about throwing him out in the street.
Yeah.
Well, no. You were joking about flogging him and throwing him out in the street or whatever. But that's what people are saying, and nobody's looking at this from a structured standpoint of, all right, what would we do if this was a company? We would fire the CEO. Yeah, sure, he's going to get a golden parachute. We're going to sweep him out the back door and all this other stuff. But it's to save the company, to keep the company from going on. We're just going to do this show, this display. And if Wayne really cared about anything other than Wayne, let's also be honest about that too. He cares about Wayne. Sure. Now he is the kind of person that you want going into the Capitol building for when they're having hearings and stuff like that. He's one of them. Wayne is a politician, and he speaks the language. He has the look. They're afraid, or they're intimidated by him. He's one of them. It's a necessary evil. But What's to say we couldn't get a new
Absolutely.
politician in there in place of Wayne? Sure, he's going to still do something, but for right now, he doesn't have that reputation with the shareholders, with us, right? And then we just make everything. But Wayne just don't want to give that up. I can't believe they can't give him such a big. I mean, they can give him a pension for Pete's sakes.
Wayne, here's the thing with Wayne. I agree with what you're saying, and to pick on that and to elaborate on that a little more. Curious what you thought, if you still agree with this, Quib. But Wayne is operating in an old school modus operandi politician mode, right? He's operating in the shenanigans he was a part of with 84 and the Hughes Amendment. He's operating in the 80s. And we need a head of the NRA that is familiar with the tactics and everything that's being used now when it comes to anti-firearm, anti-Second Amendment legislation. The tactics and the moves are completely different. Society is completely different. And we need a head of the NRA that's more in tune, more in sync with that sort of thing. I'm not saying we need a younger person. It doesn't necessarily take a younger person for that. But we need that. You're right. We need that charisma. We need that presence of power. We need that political prowess. But we need a current, more modern version of that.
You know what? When you said that, it made me think about prior to or at the beginning of World War II, all the OG military people didn't want to go to self-loading semi-automatic rifles, right? They wanted to keep the old bolt-action rifles because they thought that it would keep the soldiers from wasting ammo, and this is what's wrong with it. It worked fine when I fought in World War I and all that. And it's the same sort of mentality, is that you're not keeping up with the times, and your military force is going to fall behind because you're using, proven technology, but it's because you don't have that perspective of, we've got to keep up. So that's kind of a good way to explain it too. I mean, we can all complain about Wayne all we want, but until somebody starts offering reasonable solutions like that, then I really don't see anything more than just a bunch of people standing around bitching.
Pickle, Ro, you guys have any thoughts to add on this?
Just that, with them moving, I'm going to kind of go back to the articles, not just what these guys have been chatting about. That's for them getting out of a state that has been actively going after them, and them having to burn who knows how much, sums of money just defending themselves will, free up money for them to do other things. Getting rid of Wayne would be, it would definitely be a good, boost to the confidence to a lot of the members or the people that have recently dropped their memberships because of him. So I agree with the guys on that. And it would be great if they gave some of the power back to the board, or even have a that's because with the currently
Membership.
With life member votes, and if you've had concurrent membership for more than a certain number of years, you get votes. I have yet to actually see what that really does. So it would be nice maybe if there was some sort of way that they could get some feedback from the members at large in order to kind of help guide some of their decisions as well.
Well, the members vote in the board, and we have an annual election. If the president of the company or the president of the NRA isn't doing the job, we should be able to contact our elected board members and say, hey, look, I voted for you, get this guy out. And it should be is that too much common sense?
Apparently, because it ain't worked. They should have done that.
You remember
they
that?
should have done that back in 2019, but it didn't happen.
Trying to stage the coup, that's from what I remember. It's a little before the time I was in the NRA, member of NRA, but that's where there was an attempt at getting rearranging the power structure at the top, and and it was after that the board the upper level people restructured it, and the board became more or less a more figurehead than actual.
You're talking back in the 90s.
That's than actually having any real teeth. So that's where the board needs to get its teeth back.
That's a good way to put it.
Ro, do you have any feelings on this?
I think everybody knows where I sit with the NRA. I spend my money elsewhere, especially my state and local. I don't depend on one organization. I'm a little short this this time. I had to let some memberships lapse just due to losing my job. But
Can't nobody fault you for that, and if they do, screw them.
yeah, and I look at it as, good luck to that organization. I don't want anything to do with it. I understand what Clover says. They do a lot of good stuff for kids, for first-time gun owners. I get all that jazz. It's just not my cup of tea, and I vote with my money, and that's how I think everybody should do at this point in juncture in the life that we are all living. So good luck to them. I hope they find a new home. They should have been out of there a while ago. Might have been a little bit better for them. But me, it's just a news story.
Well, my position on the NRA itself has not changed since this whole thing started in Indianapolis. My position has been hashtag Wayne must go. But the NRA needs to stay. We need the NRA to be strong. We need the NRA to be healthy. We need the NRA to be effective for exactly the reason that Clover stated. We'd be screwed if we didn't have the NRA, frankly. Now,
we
I'm
need
not
the
saying...
NRA, and interrupt you for a second, but we need the NRA to be the NRA. And what people are complaining
Yes.
about for the most part is the ILA. And
Yes.
that's, you're like I said, they don't have the education with the way the organization is structured to be able to see that. But yes, totally agree.
Even with the ILA, in the media and in the state houses and courthouses, the NRA ILA ends up a lot of times being the target and the punching bag that has been absorbing a lot of the attacks that that I've seen recently, allowing GOA, Second Amendment Foundation, some of these other ones to kind of skirt around that, so they're not taking the body blows as much and allowing them to focus more on what they do best.
If you ever played, I'm gonna throw down total geek D&D and role-playing games here, but if you ever played massive online role-player games, D&D, you always had to have that tank, man, that barbarian, heavily armed, that was out front. And what did he do? He defended your magic throwers. He defended the guys that really did the damage, right? The FPCs, GOAs, the Second Amendment Foundations, and that's what the NRA is. It's that big behemoth out front. You're absolutely right. That's shielding everybody else.
They're the meat shield.
The NRA is the half ogre in our party.
Yep.
That's exactly it, and we need that. We need them. We need a strong NRA. We need the NRA to be effective. We need the NRA to have that mass. We need the NRA to have all those hit points.
Right.
Especially for the next 2 years, folks.
But again, I mean, we got to keep talking like this, and we've got to be factually correct and all of that. Because somebody said it, and I don't know who did, but they talked about the media, and they talked about going to Capitol Hill for the testifying and blah, blah, blah. That's predominantly ILA that's doing that. Yeah. But when the media covers it, they say NRA. So that's where most of the firearm owners, most of the 2A people, like I said, they don't go past headline culture. They don't go past the articles that just talk about the big, huge umbrella parent organization. And so they just burn it down, throw it all away because a few people in one department of a company, right? Squibb, talking about Detroit, right? So the department that works on tail light designs, if they screw up and are doing a horrible job with regulations and safety things on tail lights, GM doesn't shut down. They don't call we just need to close the company down because this group of people is screwing up our headlight or tail lights or whatever. No, they get rid of or replace or fix that piece of the system. And right now, that's the piece of the system that needs to fix, and we need to recognize it, the piece of the system.
The NRA ILA needs to be shaped up.
I think Clover missed a bit of an opportunity there. That's where we're talking about the automotive. I think the ILA is more of the Pinto gas tank that, of the organization.
Some
I don't
heads
know if
got to
it's that
roll
bad.
to deal with that bad public image.
And you're exactly right, Squib. Some heads need to roll. Wayne LaPierre needs to suck it up, take one for the team. And at this point, I was of the flog his ass, tar and feather him, run him out of town on a rail, chuck his naked, penniless corpse into the streets, and let him get washed in the gutter in dog piss. At this point, just buy his ass off and get him out of there so we can move on.
Now, here's another thing to think of with that. If enough of the NRA members had enough of a voice and the elected board members had enough power and they got rid of Wayne and word got around on Capitol Hill that we cleaned house on our own, that might send a message that not only are we capable of paying attention to what's going on and making people accountable, but if we'll do it in our own organization, we'll do it when we go to the polls, when we're casting our ballots.
And that's great, but right now, the way things are structured, what the members say pretty much means jack.
Yeah, it's like what, having common stock over preferred. You don't have any say so in the company or something.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still a member of the NRA. I just renewed last month. I think I just renewed last month. So
some people have to.
Yeah. I don't let mine lapse because I don't want to lose my ability to vote.
Exactly.
I don't know if I brought this up in the side chat out there. Very vibrant discussion out there, by the way. So thanks to everybody for doing that. And I don't know if I brought it up there or I said it earlier because I had a very long-winded ramble. The ILA is not supposed to pull funding from the NRA. That is supposed to be raised separately. It's done through donations. What happens is they come out, you join the NRA, you become a member, and then some of the extra crap that they send you in the mail all the time, or maybe some of the, send us $10, get entered to win this rifle, or, sometimes they have plate dinners and sometimes they have, golf tournaments and other things that benefit the ILA. But the ILA, the way the structure is set up, and this is coming from people that were once at least board members, the way that it's set up is that the ILA is supposed to be have its own funding, right? They don't siphon and suck the life out of the 150-year-old positive societal changing organization that is the NRA. Sadly, part of the malfeasance we're talking about and stuff, and if you've ever been in the last couple of decades involved in specifically shooting sports or ranges or maybe even gun clubs or something and had to deal with NRA's range grants or competitions programs or trainings or anything like that, then you've seen how members keep coming on and they keep doing these fundraisings and they keep doing all this stuff, and then it's like, we don't have the money, 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 we got to cut back on this grant. Why? It's going somewhere, right? And so it's either paying for Wayne's suit, which I'm sure is part of it, hashtag Wayne must go, or it's going into the ILA. And M. Gabriel said something out there too. He said, but the ILA is hitting on all cylinders, right? The ILA is important. Yeah, if we had a staunch pro 2A ILA arm of the NRA, that's ideal, because then we've got that 150-year-old organization, that behemoth that keeps forging forward to make firearm ownership normal, that keeps the outreach going, the safety, everything else. And then we've got the folks that go to Capitol Hill, that go to the state legislatures, that get paid to fight for the Pro 2A side of things. And sadly,
by the way,
again, the ILA is the one that's been screwing things up for years.
By the way, for those that don't know, the ILA is the Institute for Legislative Action. That's the lobbying arm of the NRA.
Right. Yes.
And Clover, yeah, they're long rambles, but for you, that's not really that long of a ramble.
Well, I tend to sometimes suck the air out of the room, especially if I'm passionate about it. And over the years, I mean, I've worked closely with the NRA within youth shooting sports and training and other things. And like I said, the NRA, man, it's good people and they're doing great freaking work. It's the political side. It's the policy side. It's the lobbying side. That is our problem. And 100% agree with the sentiment for everybody out there. If you pull your funding from the NRA because of that, then fine. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem is when you ignore the fact that you, first of all, you pulling that funding is really going to have any effect on the ILA because it's not supposed to go there anyway. And you ignoring the fact that we've got a 150-year-old organization doing great work that you can't argue. I don't see how anybody could make a valid argument of how horrible this country would be as far as the perception of firearm ownership without 150 years of the NRA and those training programs and everything else. Because for a very, 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 how many times I can say that, I don't know, long time, the NRA was it, right? We had NRA and maybe CMP as far as old stuff. And then maybe, what am I thinking? Appleseed, right?
Yeah.
Is fairly old too. Those are like the only three that quickly come to my mind. If you're out there in a live chat, you know more, drop them, of course. But you know, 4-H has been around for a long time, but the shooting sports was probably not until like I don't know, the 40s, and it really didn't gain traction until like the 70s. And then you look at Boy Scouts, you look at all of those things where firearms were introduced. They ain't 150 years. They don't have 150 years of history. They might have 4-H is pushing like 100, which is fairly old. But none of the other ones have that type of societal impact, outreach, safety, training, those sorts of things.
Well, Clover, I think it's a misconception. You have these people that get all butthurt and they go, screw it, I'm not renewing my membership because I'm not paying for Wayne suits. Dude, your $25 or $35 a year doesn't pay for Wayne suits. Wayne gets that money from benefactors. There are rich people out there that leave their freaking estates to the NRA. There are so many people out there that write $10,000 checks to the NRA like it's nothing. That's where Wayne gets his suit money, not your $25 annual. I thought it was yesterday, right? So they have multiple ways to get money, and they have sponsors, and they have all kinds of the things that they do. But they'll listen to these people who are giving them a lot of money. There are these old rich, sorry Clover, fuds out there that do this. Those are the people the NRA listen to. Do you think these guys really give a crap about your bump stock or about some of the other stuff? No, they don't. And a kid who's a multimillionaire to start writing $50,000 checks to the NRA, and get
ILA,
or the ILA, and get old school Wayne out of there and get somebody in who understands. Then that's a way you're going to see changes, I guess.
Yep, and you know the problem, the approach, the vast majority, it's just like politics. Okay, sadly, most people fall into that rut. They pay their dues, right, and then they gripe and moan about all the mail they get from the NRA, and it's the $5, $10, $50. Awesome if somebody could do what Scrip's talking about, the $50,000 checks that people write that go toward or are supposed to go toward the ILA and the 2A fighting efforts. But sadly, most people, even if they go that far, they're hands off. It's like I paid my money, I've paid my dues, I've donated to that cause, they're handling it, right? And you can't do it that way. You know, if you take your car into the mechanic, right? How long? What do you think is wrong with it? What do we think is this? How long will it take you to know? Well, probably take me a day. We'll run some tests. I'll know. Cool. If I don't hear from them in a day, I'm calling and saying, hey, yo, what's up? What's going on? What'd you find out? Something changed? You know, oh, just ain't got to it yet, but we're going to get to it today. And then that day they call and they say it's this. Okay, how long? How much is it going to cost? How much is it going to take to fix it? Right? Oh, well, it's going to be, it's going to be however X number of dollars. Okay, how long do you think it's going to take? I'll be 3 days for us to fix it. 3 days goes by, I don't hear from them. I'm calling and saying, what's up? Right? I'm checking in. People don't have that when they're spending their money on goods like something like repairing a car. People do that. There's some that don't. I was in business for 20 years. I had people that brought computers in. They set it on the counter. They said, fix it. If they turned around and they walked out. And they had pockets full of money, and they did not care. It's exactly the people like Squib is talking about that are primarily funding the ILA. They're super hands-off. They don't care. But most people are not that way when it comes to the money out of their pocket. So when it's something like the NRA, why are you not paying more attention? Why are you not more of the process? Why are you not going to those annual
If
meetings?
I were writing checks for that kind of money, I'd be paying attention to it.
Which the trade show alone is worth going to the annual meeting. But why are you not going to the annual meetings and standing up? You can grab the microphone and you can get your, say your piece and whatever it might be.
Well, and that's it, folks. Get there. Particularly if you're, although I don't know why the hell someone like that would be watching this, but hey, if you are, awesome. If you have that kind of access, get there and let your voice be heard. Because letting our voices be heard, because we're going to segue to the next topic, letting our voices be heard is increasingly more important today and increasingly more difficult. I'm sure you guys all know that big tech has been moving against quote-unquote conservative voices, Twitter, Facebook, etc. Blocked the president, blocked Donald Trump. Apple removed Parler's app from the App Store. Google removed Parler's app from the Play Store, and Amazon kicked them off their servers. I don't know if they're even back up yet. AR15.com got dumped by GoDaddy. So, people that the left doesn't agree with, to include Second Amendment, folks, which, because it's generally speaking a conservative cause, and we know that those who are coming into power now don't like the Second Amendment, which is why we're bringing it up here. They're dumping it. They are doing everything they can to silence our voices. That's why that's why we have to do everything we can to make those voices heard. Yes, I know these are private companies. This is how capitalism works. If a private company decides that they want to do something, then they are within their rights to do it. They aren't required to provide service to anyone. Unless, of course, they're a bakery, right? Although that's a separate issue. But it's kind of linked in that it illustrates the hypocrisy coming from the left and the cancel culture and the silencers. Freedom of speech is absolute unless we disagree. Am I wrong on this? I mean, do you guys, is this whole deplatforming of conservative thought of pro-Second Amendment in the case of AR15.com, which got back onto another, it's back on the internet now. But is this indicative of things to come? Do you see this as something that we're going to have to be aware of even more? By the way, I'm looking for a new web hosting service because my website's with GoDaddy. So
yeah. I HostGator or Bluehost would be a couple, and that's not who I'm with. Once upon a time, I would recommend someone differently, but I'm not happy. And unfortunately, I've still got a lot of corporate domains and stuff tied into mine from the business. That, in fact, I tried to call one of them today because their stuff's about ready to renew, and they need to, whoever's handling their tech stuff now needs to take that over. But yeah, I hadn't been happy with them in years. But to say, I think a lot of the issue is to stoke drama and to keep their name in normal media and keep the name around and the buzz around because they're hemorrhaging. And they have been for years. Facebook and Twitter in particular. And YouTube, it's a long drawn out conversation. I'm not going to get into it on this chat. I'd be happy to have a personal conversation with anybody out there, though, if they want some inside baseball. But I think most people that know me know that I do have some connections inside YouTube. Been working on it with a lot of people there on a lot of different fronts. And it's come up lately. YouTube has never had a we love them, we're in lockstep with them when it comes to Twitter and Facebook. Both of those are operated as far as their policies, as far as the way that they approach things, totally different. And that's why they're not, honestly, let's be honest, that's not why they're as big as Google, you know, and as integrated everywhere as Google. If you look at Twitter, it's predominantly been taken over by radical on either side, predominantly radical, political left radicals, right? Predominantly, but then also however many can stay on the platform, radicals even on the right side, right? It's not a whole lot of in the middle of the road people. It's not really used for that type of thing, and it used to be. Once upon a time, it was that way. So that's a sign that there's less diversity in the demographics of people that are using the platform. That's bad, right? Now look at Facebook. Facebook is a similar situation. You don't see young people on Facebook. I mean, maybe a little bit, but you don't even have new people hardly that are, just coming onto Facebook. If you don't got Facebook at this point, you're never going to have Facebook, right? And it's literally a bunch of old people there. Again, it's not diverse in the demographic of people that is using it. It's run its course as far as that bell curve and reaching maximum potential. It's crossed it now. It's starting to fall off. And the only way they keep things going, they keep the advertiser money coming in, all of that is to create controversy and keep the name in the news. That's the way you do it. Bad press is still press, right? And so for those two companies, I think that's a lot of the reason that they do what they do, is because they know if they didn't, they would be done. They would be done because people's moved on to more effective platforms that work better, and it just runs the gamut.
It is also interesting that for the last, I don't know how many years, I can't really put a number on it, when there's been the gripes of people, a lot of it coming from the right, honestly, but I'm sure some from the far left as well, about, they're censoring this, they're censoring that, whatever, they won't allow us to have whatever, and you keep getting told, you'd hear repeatedly, well, then go make your own platform, go make your own website, whatever. It's interesting that now that has happened, but then
they did everything they could to crush it.
Or they tell Roll Call to make his own video.
Yeah, then the big companies, the big companies like, okay, well, you've gone out and made your own startup that's going to compete against us, that's going to host the stuff that we've been kicking off, so we're going to use our influence to crush it. So that's where you start getting into, okay, well, they kick the platform off, and then they yank the server, and from what I can't confirm it, but from what I've been hearing, that's where the algorithms are such that on certain search platforms, if you even try to punch in what's the new one I've heard of, Gab app, and then some of the Parlor, some of the other ones, it'll come up, but it'll be buried in the middle of the 5th or 6th page, rather than at the
don't
top
use Google
of the
for
first
stuff
one.
like that. Use DuckDuckGo or something else.
Right, but the point I'm making, that's where it's it's almost to the point where you're going to have to make your own, where some of these groups are almost going to have to make their own internet or make their whatever in order to get out from under the thumb of the big conglomerates that are currently running it. So I wouldn't say a First Amendment issue, because First Amendment is, tells what the government is allowed to do to the people, not what the people do to the people, but it's still not a good, situation.
Oh, hey, real quick, I didn't realize Roll Call was in here, but I love Roll Call, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I like to wear the clothes that you wear.
Yeah.
Well, that's not creepy.
Have you been sniffing any shirts lately, Ro?
Gotta have a little creepy in your show, man. Gotta have a little.
Yeah, no kidding.
No.
I don't know. I get it with the whole private company thing. I really do. On the other hand, these platforms with the internet and the way everyone's using social media as the public forum, do you think that plays a role in it, or do you think it should play a role in it?
Well, that's where are they a platform or are they a publisher? That's where, that kind of, to me.
Well, when they're
would-
just when they're censoring what's on their on their service, are they a publisher?
Well,
Right.
that's
I
what I'm
don't
trying
think
to
they
say.
should be
That's
afforded that protection that they were granted. Pick one.
exactly. That's what I'm trying to get to. It's you're one or the other, but this dancing back and forth across the line to whichever one happens to be beneficial in that moment is what's getting my goat.
Well, if you look at this way, man, 230 is a double-edged sword. If you take away 230, we are all gone.
Right.
There is no getting around it. It
Yep.
is all gone. So the people that are saying, get rid of 230, we don't need this. The Ted Cruzes of the world. Look, if you think this is bad, let me tell you, if they take away 230, it's over.
Look at what
Everything's getting pulled.
spot on. Look at the podcast world, not applicable for the most part, right? That gets thrown in. Look at TV, and look at what you can and can't do as far as TV and stuff. When you at TV and mainstream whatever radio, syndicate radio, right, or whatever syndicated radio, look at what you can and can't do. Use Carlin's 7 dirty words, whatever, right? Look at the things you can and can't do. If that falls under 230, then guess what? Those same kind of rules, the same filters, the same things that the government intervention comes in, 230, applying 230 to these, I get you, double-edged sword, and it's not a simple situation. And these platforms know this. But with 230, you get government intervention, which is not good. On the flip side, if they say, okay, well, you have to publish everything, blah, 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 because, you're not a publisher, right? You can't pick and choose. Guess what? Advertisers pull because they don't like this person that says curse words, or they don't like this, or they don't like that. Advertisers pull. How do you run a platform like that without money? Especially a massive infrastructure set up like is Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you name it, right? We see how hard it is for even somebody little like Parler to get back up and running.
Quick question for those of us who are uneducated: what is this 230 you speak of?
230 is the Federal Communications Act, but whatever. It's the FTC guideline that distinguishes between basically a platform and a publisher, right? Someone who curates their content and someone who does not curate their content.
Okay, thank you.
And look, I'm not a Trump supporter. I only voted for the guy because my candidate said some outlandish stuff right before the election and lost my vote. And you have to understand this. I see all these people cheering about conservatives being wiped off of platforms, that other platforms that conservatives talk about, that are on to communicate. Everybody's cheering about this. Everybody's cheering about Trump not being on the airwaves, even though I think Facebook just gave him back his Facebook and somebody else. But everybody's cheering about this. Look, if the President of the United States, members of Congress, people that influence political issues in the country are silenced, what do you think these people can do to you? You've been using
the article I'm going to be talking about next really goes down that slope.
Dude, and it's slippery. And this is the one that you could slip down into the rabbit hole and never climb out of. I'm so tired of people.
If our social media,
I don't have a solution.
And to throw that in even more, and I don't know if you were going down that road, but I think I watch more non-gun content than I watch gun content, right? Boxes and put up these borders and put up these walls and put up these fences and think that everybody is inside that. And it's like, and honestly, when we do that, we're the only ones inside that. And a lot of times we fool ourselves into thinking, oh, we're all in this together. No, we're not.
That's why platforms like Gunstreamer and Full 30 and GunTube are not doing as well as YouTube, is because YouTube has a much broader appeal. It has a much broader audience to draw from. You know, that's why YouTube is the 800-pound gorilla. Because there's everything
Well, it just
here.
seems that the more YouTube censors us, or other services like that, like Twitter or what have you, and you know, people go, hey, go check me out on whatever. Great. Who's over on
By the
whatever?
way, I just
and then you
started
go
a
over to
Cloud
whatever
Hub
and the
account.
site's down, or you're one of these people who makes videos and you go in there and you have to go through 15 pages to put up a 2-second video. You go, I never had this problem on YouTube, or just other issues. I've been having a repeat issue with Gunstreamer for 2 months now. I've emailed them twice. They haven't even returned. And it's like, I understand I'm not paying for this service, but guys, come on. I want to push your platform, but you're not working with me here. So I wonder if our ability to reach other people and keep them informed, like what this show does about current events or about rallies or about, you know, giving people with questions, ideas of what they might be able to do, or new people that want to get information. If we're going to just be spread out all over the place, are we going to just fall apart?
I don't know. But I do know that, as I said when Roll Call was talking, this slope is getting kind of slippery. Justice, Duke profs call for Biden to create a misinformation commission. A pair of Duke University professors are calling for President-elect Joe Biden to establish a bipartisan commission to address fake news. The commission, said Professors Philip Napoli and Bill Adair, who also helped launch PolitiFact, would investigate the rise of fake news and propose recommendations to a Democratic White House and Congress to cement the corporate media and big tech's monopoly on truth. The attacks on the Capitol was rooted in misinformation, the professors explained in an op-ed for The Hill, capitalizing on the siege to warrant the commission. By moving swiftly to establish a commission with a broad mission and diverse membership, President-elect Biden can seize the moment to address one of the greatest problems facing the nation. In other words, let no crisis go to waste. Napoli and Adair complained that corporate media's fact-checking apparatus failed to prevent the horde of Trump supporters descending on the Capitol last week after being convinced by the president that the election being certified by Congress was stolen and fraudulent. The lies flourished despite an extraordinary amount of debunking by fact-checkers and Washington journalists, but the fact-checking didn't persuade the mob that stormed the Capitol, nor did it dissuade millions of other supporters of the president, they wrote. For the past 4 years, academics, journalists, and philanthropists and foundations and tech leaders have thrown a lot at the problem of misinformation. It's time for leadership. There's no mention, however, of the irresponsible journalism that played a primary role in fomenting the Capitol riot. Millions of Americans have come to distrust the nation's institutions, which failed them, lied to them, and mocked them for decades, making the author's mentions of the millions of dollars being poured into fact-checking operations fall on deaf ears. Pardon me. So when Trump, the only figure whom many of the people gathered at the nation's capital thought they could trust, told them the election was being stolen from them, they believed it. They believed it because they lived in an alternate reality after being alienated by years of fact checks, dubious double standards ranging from immigration policy to Melania Trump's wardrobe outfits, and conspiracies being pushed by legacy outlets. Blanket mistrust of legacy institutions might be ill-guided, but it can't be misunderstood. Any meaningful reform must reckon with the new reality that elite institutions have shot their own credibility. Or, short version, these Duke professors are calling on Biden to create a misinformation commission. A commission that will decide what is the truth. Any of you read 1984? They're calling for a fucking ministry of truth here. To decide what we can and can't say, what is and is not going to be true. I mean, Facebook is fact-checking. Let's extend that to everything. So, come on, man. To quote Biden. They want to make a freaking ministry of truth. Man. can't believe this shit.
You know, I don't agree with a whole lot of. That's dangerous. I don't care what anybody says. People can call me whatever they want, but you know,
Two amendments in the Constitution are number 1 and number 2 for a reason. They are the most important. You must have the ability in a free society to express your viewpoint unhindered, unless you're encouraging someone else to get hurt. You must have the ability in a free society to have the means to protect that freedom, to protect the right to speak. The most basic right of a free human being is to express your opinion, to enter the arena of ideas and compete there. Right now, how many of you have to think twice at work or anywhere else in public, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram, anywhere that's the public square, before you say something because someone might get offended? Now, imagine that it's the full weight and power of the government, which the First Amendment is supposed to allow us to speak against. Not allow, let me rephrase that. The First Amendment is to prevent government from regulating our speech, from telling us what we can and can't say, from telling us what ideas we can have, from telling us what beliefs we can express, from telling us what discourse we can have, from telling us what we can and can't say. The government is specifically forbidden to do this. But do you think that they'll hesitate for a second to adopt this measure? They've already been prepping us for this, but by the fact that the phrase fake news has been inserted into the lexicon of American thought, by the very fact that fact-checking is so prevalent and widespread on our social media. This terrifies me, if you can't tell, because this is tyranny. That's what I think.
it's scary, man. I don't care what anybody says. When you think it's bad when you can't get this certain app on your phone, it's going to be real bad. Real bad. Like, you know, what is the penalty? What is the penalty for putting something that they say is mostly false? You see that a lot on Facebook. Well, that's mostly false. But there is a little bit of truth to it. That's scary, because they can deem everything that you say as false, as incorrect facts. And they're way. I mean, that's why the First Amendment is so important.
Like the picture of Joe Biden with Robert KKK Byrd, you know. Oh, well, this is false because, you know, he wasn't a Grand Wizard. He was like Kleagle. That's all.
Yeah, like that matters.
Fact is, the man was still a fucking KKK officer in charge of recruitment, and there's Joe Biden all buddy with him. Oh, but you know that's fake news. That's mostly false. That's partially false. It lacks context.
Yeah.
As if we're too stupid to understand nuance.
But the thing is, this is a fundamental American right that is being messed with. The F-bomb is more than appropriate for this. As Americans, we shouldn't have to even have this discussion. This shouldn't even be something that's being considered. For people who don't live here, didn't grow up the way we did, they don't understand. It's a foreign concept because they've had this their whole life. And once this sort of thing takes effect, all you have to do is wait a couple generations, and people will be used to it.
It's the same thing that I talk about when people get culture canceled out or anything around that nonsense. I tell them, you know, look across the Pacific. Look at those countries that are yearning to adopt the Constitution that we have. Look at Hong Kong. Look at these places that are yearning to try
speak out against their government, and they're constantly killed, first of all, or beaten to a pulp when they speak out against their government. This is serious. And for people to think that it's funny, who cares, yada yada yada, it could all end in a split second if we continue to give up the powers to be, which is the people. When we continue to do the vicious cycle of electing these maniacs, I call them maniacs, that they're going about free speech. And they've always been wild about the Second Amendment, but this is your first act as an American, is to speak out not against somebody else, but against your government. And when this is taken away, everything else is going to start tumbling.
Well, there are mass calls for that right now anyway, for you to not be able to speak out against your government. We all know what happened at the Capitol last week before. We all know what happened. We all know that there was a protest. There was a legal protest. There was a peaceful protest that some bad actors used to storm the Capitol and create all kinds of chaos and hell in there and destroy shit and frickin' damage things and stuff. Which, by the way, my position on this is that everybody had every damn right to be on those Capitol grounds and protest. Everybody had every damn right to be there and let their voice be heard. Everybody had every damn right to petition the government for redress of those grievances. Everybody had every damn right to do so peacefully. They didn't have the right to go in and start stealing shit and breaking shit and destroying shit. Had no right whatsoever to do that. And just like the people that at Chaz Chop, just like the people who've attacked federal buildings all summer, just like the people who have attacked police stations all summer, just like the people that have been burning, looting, and murdering all summer, the people that went into the Capitol, they deserve to have their asses prosecuted, but especially if they were caught on video stealing shit and destroying shit. If you don't like it, hit the unsub button, click off, bye-bye. That's how I feel.
And I want to throw this in there. The people that are cheering these folks on, the people that think it's great and wonderful, go look at the statements that these people, after they've been arrested, after they've been put in federal custody, are apologizing. They're apologizing out of their ass with their actions.
But I bring that up. Because there are people who weren't in the Capitol, who were on the grounds, who were in Washington, who were at the protests, doing what they had every legal, moral, ethical right and obligation as an American to do. Let their voice be heard. I end every broadcast with, let your voice be heard, right? I mean, that's using the first to defend the second. Huge believer in First Amendment. Absolutely 100% right. There are people, for instance, I got into a ginormous argument with somebody over the last couple days on Facebook. Our local newspapers, left-leaning rag, by the way, had an article on an Ohio Board of Education member who was at the Capitol, not in the Capitol. She was on the grounds. She listened to Donald Trump's speech. She went and she, rallied at the Capitol, like everybody has every right to do. Did not go in. But everybody's calling for her to lose her job because how dare she be one of those right-wing Republican, Nazi, racist fascists because she was expressing her opinion. That's what they want for us. And they want more than that for us. This in office, of course. Recorded video. Yeah.
Don't worry, nobody ever listens to me.
It is a scary concept, the fact that, there are so many people that, although people in power, hard to say, but that there are so many people that are okay with anyone who disagrees with them. I know that's for over the last probably year, the whole reference to George Orwell 1984 has probably been of what they're of what it looks like they're trying to do.
It fits. That's the hell of it. The entire 1984 reference fit, moving it from fiction to nonfiction. One of my liberal friends said, "I'm moving it to reference." Asshole. Apparently, once it is out. There was an article about soldiers, the guardsmen who were there, and hey, stop trying to send donations. They actually have lodging there. The pictures of them being all stretched out on the floor and whatnot are during their breaks.
On a few platforms, there we go again, right? But yes, he has said, those people are not people who supported me. Those people don't represent the rest of you, and he was getting on the plane to go over to see the portion of the wall that he actually got done. And he did an interview, and he goes, "No, we don't want to say anything irresponsible. We're not about violence." And now that stuff doesn't get, but the whole thing is, I've heard so much crap about all this military buildup in Washington D.C. and how we have military units surrounding other military units. Like there's going to be some sort of like military, like one's going to support the coup and one's going to fight for the whatever. And it's like, no, they're overreacting because they don't want to have another event like that. I think it's kind of overkill, but whatever. I mean, it's ridiculous to send National Guard from Missouri when you've got plenty in Maryland. It really is.
I just figured out what the issue is tonight. It's a dumbass move on my part. I normally have my resolution set at 1280 by 720. I've got it at 1920 by 1080 tonight. That's what the problem is. That's why we're getting all these issues. Summon 'em, bitch. Thank you for the idea. And Gabriel, he says, what if you turned off your 4K camera? I'm like, it's not a 4K camera. What the hell? It's a 1920 by... Oh, shit. That's what the problem is.
Technical diddlies. It wouldn't be right of the people without it.
So let me do this. Because check this out. I bet... Buffering goes away now. I bet you. I bet you. At least the audio will be there, right? Man, that sucks.
Do you have cable internet?
Yeah.
Well, what the...
It's my computer. That's what it is, Squib. It's the graphics card on my computer is a internal graphics card. It's not a dedicated graphics card, so that's why.
You're using a graphics and the processor?
Yeah.
Didn't you just upgrade computers here? Just
yeah, that was. This is even with the upgrade. I bought the wrong damn computer. I did not buy one with like the graphics card I needed. This is the one that's on the motherboard, an integrated graphics card, and that's why I have issues with broadcasting with higher resolution. It works fine to process and render video as far as my produced content goes, but yeah, not so much with the whatchamacallit, with live. That's why it does not like to run XSplit doing this. But I like using XSplit, so yeah. Seven says it was good after his Star Trek joke, even when my camera was on me. Yeah.
Yeah, he says, Bones, this man needs medical attention. Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not a... Oh, never mind.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, so that's what the issue was. Resolution issues. It is, as usual, operator error. This guy.
It would not be the right of the people unless
There were some technical diddlies. I bet they come back now that I turn my camera back on.
Do you have a technical difficulties, anything in your merch store or whatnot?
Yeah, I do, as a matter of fact, the t-shirt.
Ah.
The
How about a
technical
coffee
diddlies.
mug for those of us who like
Yeah,
coffee.
yeah. It's go
Yeah.
ahead to my Spreadshirt shop. You'll find a link below, and you too can buy a technical difficulties coffee cup or mug or whatever the hell you want. Cause yeah, we have them. It's a thing. You know that technical difficulty screen that comes up at the beginning? It's that. Yep. All right. You know, really, I got one more thing I want to talk about before we go, and that is the awesomeness that happened here in Ohio. This while I get rid of me, and let me get rid of this, and let me get rid of this, and now I'll just go ahead and read the damn article, right? This is from Knife Rights. Knife Rights Ohio Knife Law Reform Bill signed January 11, 2021. Knife Rights Ohio Law Reform Bill, SB 140, has been signed by Governor Mike DeWine, which actually surprises the crap out of me. We sincerely thank Governor DeWine for signing this important bill. Thanks also to all of you who used Knife Rights Legislative Action Center for the hundreds of emails and calls to the governor. Note, the new law does not take effect until April 10, 2021, 90 days after signing. Existing law is still in effect till then. Note, we have not yet passed Knife Rights signature knife law preemption in Ohio, so individual cities and towns may still have the knife ordinances more restrictive than state law. Hopefully that comes next. Let's see. SB 140 reforms Ohio knife law by making two separate substantive changes. The first is the ban on manufacture and sale of switchblade, spring blade, and gravity knives is repealed. The second, it clears up the vague and confusing Ohio law regarding carry of any knife by defining a knife, razor, or cutting instrument as a deadly weapon or weapon only if it is used as a weapon. This would allow carrying any knife concealed under state law. Knife Rights was honored to work closely with a number of Ohio legislators over the past 6 years to get this bill introduced and passed. Former Senator Joe Euchre, SB 140's original sponsor, said, "When Knife Rights approached me about this bill, it made perfect sense to me. A completely legal item to possess should be completely legal to manufacture in Ohio. A knife should not be considered a deadly weapon unless it's used as one. That's just common sense." Euchre continued, "After 4 years of effort, it is clear that we'd never have gotten this done but for the simple fact that Knife Rights showed up every time. As anyone successful in getting legislation done knows, being there in the Capitol at critical moments is what makes the difference. Todd Rathner from Knife Rights did that. I sincerely appreciate that he and Knife Rights showed up every single time we needed him at each critical juncture." Euchre concluded, "I would also like to thank my fellow legislators who kept this bill moving, and especially Chairman Lang for getting SB 140 to the House floor." Representative George Lang, chairman of the Ohio House Criminal Justice Committee, said, "SB 140 is just good policy. It is good for Ohio businesses and will create jobs, and it is good for Ohio citizens. Decriminalizing simple possession of a knife is much needed criminal justice reform. I was proud to work with Todd from Knife Rights. He was here every step of the way. There's no substitute for that." Co-sponsor Senator Christina Regner said, "Manufacturing jobs are the lifeblood of Ohio. The fact that you cannot legally manufacture an otherwise legal product in Ohio makes no sense. This is why I co-sponsored SB 140. It's just good policy for Ohio. I'd like to thank Knife Rights for their support and hard work on SB 140. Rick Hinderer of Hinderer Knives said, "I was fully prepared to take our manufacturing of automatic knives to a neighboring state. Then Knife Rights stepped up to fix the law here in Ohio. I worked closely with Todd Rathner from Knife Rights and saw him in action in the Capitol. He easily worked with members from both sides of the aisle. There is no question that without his efforts at the Capitol, SB 140 would never have been passed. Decriminalizing knife carry was frosting on the cake that I was proud to help make happen. By showing up and doing the hard work, Todd and Knife Rights got the job done for us and all Ohioans." Representative Scott Wiggum, Rick Hinderer's representative, said, When I was approached by a constituent who wanted to manufacture automatic knives under contract to the U.S. government, and he told me he couldn't because of an outdated Ohio statute, I knew we had to fix it. SB 140 is the right policy for Ohio and Ohioans. Thanks to Knife Rights and Todd Rathner for being here in the Capitol to make it happen. Knife Rights would also like to thank Ohio Second Amendment activist Jim Irvine, who is a bigwig in the Buckeye Firearms Association, for his support and assistance in getting SB 140 passed and signed. We also appreciate the support we received from American Civil Liberties Union of Ohio and Buckeye Firearms Association. Knife Rights is America's grassroots knife owners organization leading the fight to rewrite knife laws in America and forging a sharper future for all Americans. That's actually pretty, those are actually pretty cool slogans. That's forging a sharper
Sounds like
future
something
for all
you'd come
Americans.
up with.
I know, doesn't it? Hey, I'm pretty good at that shit. So are they. Knife rights efforts have resulted in 33 bills enacted repealing knife bans in 23 states and over 100 cities and towns since 2010. So that's pretty cool. Here in the Buckeye State, except that we don't have preemption, where the localities will allow you to, you can now carry a knife without having to worry about it. I've always thought it was asinine that it's a felony for me if I carry a knife as a weapon, but I can carry my pistol just fine. Stupidity.
You know, it's simply amazing what happens when people stop and they listen and they put common sense into it. This is the second bill that's come out of your state that makes sense. And that's surprising with all the little bit of troubles that you guys have had over the past few years.
I'm surprised DeWine has signed either one of those. The removal of the duty to retreat and this decriminalization of knife carry. I'm really, really shocked because DeWine is a rhino's rhino. But, yeah.
Well, you always got to look at it this way, though. Politicians will do what politicians do, and that is to find some way, somehow, to keep the grasp of power.
Yeah, well, my message to Mike DeWine is still what it always has been. One term, Bubba. One term. One. You get one. At least as far as I'm concerned. I'll vote for a Democrat before I vote for you again. Sure will.
What's the difference?
There is none. That's the point. At least if a Democrat gets voted in as opposed to Mike DeWine, that sends other Republicans the message that, hey, you better actually be a Republican.
Can we send some of ours down there to you? Because I'd really like to get rid of them.
No, you keep yours.
Somebody take them, please.
No.
I would gladly send our governor over there to you guys. You guys can deal with it for a while.
Nope. All right, folks. I wanted to get that done. I think that I'm going to do Moron of the Week and self-defense shoutouts as a separate broadcast later in the week. Because I'm really not feeling this freaking buffer diddly. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank you guys out there in the chat. I want to thank you guys here on the panel. Pickle, is there anything you'd like to leave us with?
Not really. I just want to say thanks for the invite again, and it's been a good chat. And that's where it's kind of nice having Clover on for that little while he was able to put some additional information out there for us that other people on the panel may not have been able to do.
Squib, is there anything you'd like to leave us with?
Don't be stupid, people.
Well, those are always good words to live by. Roll call. Anything you'd like to say, sir?
Yeah, like always, man, thanks for having me. It's always fun coming on the show. You can go find me over on YouTube at Roll Call 219. Just threw out a video about some business that happened over there in the Capitol this past week. I encourage people to go and make a comment. Be cordial in there. I've had some comments that I've gone through my studio that have been held for review. So be cordial in those comments. Apparently, YouTube's noticed a little bit of what I've been doing. So keep it cordial in there. I don't want any trouble from those weirdos. You also find me on Twitter at the same handle, along with Instagram. I don't know what I'm going to do with Twitter yet. I haven't quite made up my mind.